Okay, ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about Ryan Day and the possibility that they want him to lose his job if he does not win the national championship this year. Because number one, he is top ranked, he's making it to the playoffs, but for the first time in maybe the last four meetings we've had with Oregon, we've actually lost. We've beaten Oregon the last four times. We've lost to Michigan. And anybody will tell you, you could have won everything else, but losing to Michigan, especially losing to Michigan this year, the past few years when Michigan was cheating, most people say, okay, look, that's more a pat in the back that you're doing such a good job. This is still the same coach now. You're doing such a good job that your opponent, your rival, that has been the rival before you was even born, consider you such a good coach and the team so good that they have come up with the idea the best playbook that they have is to cheat to beat you. Now that right there, bravo, my boy. Bravo. But this year, you lost to Michigan when they back to sucking. Because yes, this Michigan team sucked. You have a new head coach. I called him, he was the proxy coach of this year. I did not anticipate him being the head coach of Michigan next year. I believe he's going to be fired because at least Michigan could say, "Hey, we've had, we made our Negro allotment. We had him a coach for 2 years, but he beat Ohio State this year. Now, do they still have the ID codes to our playbooks? Because when they call it the sign stealing, they think, oh, it was just Michigan sending a coach to steal their signs. No, it actually went way beyond that. Remember, in 2020, we have been beating these boys so bad, like literally for 20 years, Michigan had not won against Ohio State. Okay, for 20 years, ladies and gentlemen, and in 2020, the ass whooping was going to be so bad that they used COVID as saying, "Hey, we don't have enough healthy players to play Ohio State." 2020, they was like, "Hey, no, we're not gonna play y'all. We're gonna use COVID." 2021, 2022, 2023, and now 2024, they beat us. And one of the reasons why they could go from, "Hey, I don't want to play them at all," and get another loss on my record is because not only was they doing the sign stealing, ladies and gentlemen, they also had Ohio State's login IDs to all their practice tapes, to all they plays, they daily plays. Most coaches they put everything on digital. So Michigan had access to this. So when they tell you it was just sign stealing, no, it was not just sign stealing, ladies and gentlemen. They had access to Ohio State plays of their day to day training. So think about that. Imagine if you to call about Cowboys and you have access to the 49ers playbook that week. You watching them run the plays, the test the plays, which plays they want to do, and you can see what plays they planning to run against you. Do you think the Cowboy fans would be mad if they cheated just a little bit? Just a little bit. They know the plays. So did Michigan still know Ohio State plays? Did somebody still give them the playbook? That's a possibility. But that was just for the fans that didn't know how deep. And when they talk about, oh, Michigan beat us for 4 years, Michigan didn't beat us for 4 years, ladies and gentlemen. If you a team and you're doing your practices and the other opponent, they not, most teams they'll tell you they have film study where they go watch and they watch your official games that's nationally televised and they draw up playbooks and stuff and schemes to try and stop the plays that you're running this week. And that's why anytime you hear, teams talking about they have a bye week and they should have extra wrinkles because now they have 2 weeks to put new plays into action that you had not seen before. But what if you have access to their daily practice tapes? Does that make a difference in how you draw up your game plan to beat Ohio State? Obviously, because it's not you haven't seen it. Go back and watch. I'm telling you, go back and watch every Michigan player the past few years when they were talking about, did you guys cheat or did you know anything about cheating to beat Ohio State? And the first thing, they all natural reaction is to laugh because when somebody's lying and they know you don't have the information to prove that they lying, they start laughing like, oh look, they asking the question. Ha 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 ha. Back to Ryan Day. Okay, so this is his really, really first official hands down loss to Michigan. Okay. And this should not have been a loss at all because, like they had a players only meeting. They had a heartfelt meeting with all the players and the coaches. Ryan Day was in there, and I watched several podcasts. You have Bobby Carpenter, Slagle. You have um, the BLEAV podcast. There's another one, Kurt Barton's podcast, and they all said the same thing. The Ohio State players were disappointed with the play calling. Okay, because they still have to do what the coaches say, so they were disappointed with the play calling. And Ryan Day himself said, "Look, the loss is on me. I wouldn't have changed my play calling in hindsight. I still wouldn't change it." So he still believes that his play calling was not the problem. Now, we know from the loss it was a problem. We know from not hitting the wide receivers there's a problem. But from one of my other podcasts, I said with Joel Clapp when he did a breakdown of the Michigan game that, Will Howard was not seeing the whole field. Obviously, it's the stress of the game. I will give that to the young man because we all know how stress affects us. And the interview after the game, you could tell, yes, he is a new Ohio State transplant. He's been in Kentucky, but now he's with Ohio State. He sees how much the team embraces him. And nobody said anything like Will Howard's fault. Nobody says defense fault. Nobody says offense fault because it's a team loss, ladies and gentlemen. Like they say about the flag planting, Shannon Sharp and my boy Ocho. You had 60 minutes to fight. You have 60 minutes to prove you could beat me. And that allotted time, you did not beat me. So there is some hard feelings, yes. But at the end of the day, Michigan beat us. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I can say that we took a straight up L because number one, we failed, Ohio State failed to adjust our game plan. Like Ryan Day said, he wanted to outpower Michigan. Think about the two touchdowns, ladies and gentlemen. We have two touchdowns that was taken off the board because of pass interference. Two touchdowns. We have two field goals that was missed. If you add those points in, we would have had the 30 some points people was talking about they was expecting to happen. But again, back to the Michigan game plan. When you look at the cornerbacks, go back and look at the cornerbacks when those plays happen. They wasn't surprised about the pass interference call because a lot of times when a pass interference is called, the first thing you see the DB cornerback doing is like, "What are you talking about? This is good defense." No, no, no. Go back and look at them. They was like, "This is the game plan. We are not going to allow them to score touchdowns on us. We're going to hold them and we're going to try and put our defense in position to stop them or hold them to field goals like they did." Go back and watch, ladies and gentlemen. This was their game plan. If there is a chance that any Ohio State receiver is going to get a touchdown in the end zone, hold them. Look, I'm telling you, as a defensive back myself, I can tell you that was their game plan. Look at the face of the DB. That was their plan. It wasn't, oh, I'm shocked about a pass interference call. This was the game plan to hold them and force them to try and do it again. So, should Ryan Day now be fired because one, he failed to adjust his game plan? Two, Michigan made the calls that they needed to make to hold Ohio State to just 10 points. Now, Remember, we have two missed field goals, one to the right, one to the left. We have two missed touchdowns where ball was would have been caught, but they were held by the Michigan defensive backs. Okay, how many points is that? Those right there. Either one of those would have been game. All right, and we'd have won the game. Either one would have been game. Here's the thing that nobody's talking about. If Ryan Day does not win this national championship, I do believe his replacement has already been contacted. And it's going to be Jim Tressel. Because when it comes to Ohio State football, and especially now in the expanded playoffs where you have a chance that you could lose maybe a game or two and still end up in the playoff, depending on which loss and who you lost to. It might be detriment. You don't want to, but Jim Tressel is mostly a 10-1 winner. He will win majority of the seasons. He might have one loss in a normal season. Jim Tressel is going to be the head coach. Is going to be the head coach if Ryan Day does not win the national championship this year. And I do believe he's going to be the national champion winner because even though he was not willing to relent on his play calling. I do believe Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator, the defensive coaches, they also have to sit down and have a conversation and say, hey, we cannot lose games like this. This is literally our one and last shot. Like, we cannot allow this to happen at all. Okay? So, could Jim Tressel, who has now been living in the suburban area, because he's been in Youngstown, he's been the athletic director there, and he's been living in the suburban era. And that coach has been contacted. If Ryan Day fails to win the national championship, he himself is going to be moving back to the suburban home somewhere else. I know he's a more urban kind of guy. I understand he's very up to it. He's very hit. He's up with the urban music. But Jim Tressel has been contacted, has been put on alert. If Ryan Day does not win the national championship this year, you are going to be bringing Ohio State back to the prominence that the fans want. And you can see it, like all the taglines is all saying the same thing. Ryan Day should be losing his job. And I would tell you, no, he's been a great coach. The past 4 years, without Michigan cheating, we would have won those games. Okay. This year, that was an ass whooping. And that was an ass whooping on his inability to change the game plan. Okay, so that's not the players. That's not the field goal kicker. That's not Will Howard. That's not the defense. That is completely on the coaches, ladies and gentlemen. So we cannot put any losses on the players because when you watch this game, you can see these players putting their heart and soul into this game. You can see that with the plays they've been given. I mean, they did have some drops late in the end. I mean, that last fourth quarter drive, when they were trying to get to the first down, trying to get the field goal range. That you could put on the receivers and the quarterback, but at the end of the day, it shouldn't come down to no last second drive trying to beat Michigan. Okay, we should have already won this game in the first half. Let's be honest. Okay, so hats off to Michigan. They did a wonderful job. Hats off to Sharon Moore. Like I say, I called you the puppet coach that they was just going to implement until they could get a better coach to replace you. Now, yep, I still do believe that at the end of the season he will still be fired, and they're still going to replace him with somebody else, and he was just going to be the the Negro quota that Michigan could say, hey, we've had a Negro coach. He did an outstanding job, but we had a better candidate because you do have better coaching candidates out there. If Michigan chooses to keep the young man, my hats off to him. Congratulations, because if if they beat us fair and square this year, if they didn't use none of the cheating stuff that they had implemented the past 4 years, and Sharon Moore beat us fair and square, you got to say this gentleman is one of those up and coming head coaches that everybody's going to be going after. I will say that about the young man. Nothing but the best of luck to him. You beat us fair and square. I don't know, but you did beat us on paper. We'll see what the NCAA does and what other evidence they bring up against you guys. But thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoy it. And again, remember, Jim Tressel, if Ryan Day does not win the national championship this year, Jim Tressel, coming from the suburban that he lives in right now, is going to be the new head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Should Ohio State stumble anywhere along, even if they make it all the way to the national championship and they lose, Ryan Day will most likely either be demoted. I think he might take a demotion if he's bringing in one of these great coaches. He might take that. I don't think they might want to fire him. They might demote him and say, "Hey, it's just gonna be like how it was before you became the head coach." Possibilities, yes, but it comes down to one, Ohio State not losing any more games, and two, they must have the national championship at the end of the season. If they don't, he has the real possibility of being replaced. All right, so thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. The Super Show. I hope you guys enjoy it.